The microphone screeched as my mother snatched it from the funeral director. Her black dress swayed while she stepped onto the small platform beside the casket of my father. I thought she was going to share a memory or perhaps shed a few tears. Instead, she looked straight at me sitting in the front row where daughters are supposed to sit and smiled like a serpent ready to strike. Before we say goodbye to Don Javier announced with her voice echoing through the crowded room, there is something everyone should know. Elena is not his real daughter. She never was. The collective gasp that swept through the hall felt as if all the oxygen had been sucked out at once. I sat frozen, clutching the funeral program with my father's smiling face, the same nose as mine, the same green eyes, the same stubborn chin everyone said I had inherited. But my mother was not finished. She stepped down from the platform with surprising grace for a woman who had already drunk 3 glasses of wine before noon. She walked straight toward me and handed me a folded paper. "The funeral bill," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. I opened it with numb fingers. It was detailed: the premium mahogany casket, the flowers, the catering, everything top tier, exactly as she had insisted, even though my father had passed with almost nothing in his accounts. Why me? Because you owe at least that much for pretending to be his daughter all these years. She turned to the crowd, acting as if she were on a stage. 26 years of lies. 26 years of another man's child eating at our table. My Aunt Lucia was the first to laugh, then my Uncle Diego, then my cousins, one by one like dominoes falling in a chain of cruelty. The laughter spread through the room. Not everyone, but enough. Enough to make it clear this was not news to some of them. "Pay or get out, bastard," she whispered close enough for me to smell the wine on her breath. "The real family needs to mourn in peace." I stood up slowly with surprisingly steady legs. I looked at the casket where the man who taught me to ride a bicycle, who walked me down the aisle on my wedding day, who held my hand through my divorce, now rested. Then I looked at my mother, at the relatives, still laughing, at those who looked uncomfortable but said nothing. "You want me to pay?" I asked quietly. "Every cent, or I will sue you for fraud for impersonating a family member." "That does not even exist." "Prove it." I took out my phone, opened my banking app and showed her the screen. "I have $8,743 in my checking account." My father knew. He knew I had spent everything on his cancer treatment, the experimental medicines. The insurance would not cover the home nurse. "That is not my problem," she said. "No," I nodded, putting the phone away. "It is not." I walked to the casket and placed my hand on it one last time. I whispered goodbye to the man who loved me regardless of DNA. Then I headed for the door. "Running away like your mother," screamed my mother behind me. I stopped, turned around and smiled. "No, I am going to make a few calls. You might want to tell Aunt Lucia to stop laughing. She is going to need her strength for what is coming." I left them there with their $30,000 casket and the cheap cruelty, pulling out my phone as I walked to my car. I had 23 missed calls from my divorce lawyer. He had been trying to reach me all morning, but I had kept my phone on silent for the funeral. "Elena, thank God," he said when I called back. "I have been trying. Did you know your father left you something?" "What?" "He had nothing." "No, it is not nothing. A safety deposit box. He called me 2 weeks before he passed. He named me as the base for this specific legacy. Only you can open it. There is also a letter." 1 hour later, I was sitting in the bank vault looking at the contents of box 447. 3 things. A letter, a USB drive, and a thick folder of documents. The letter was dated 1 week before his death. "My dearest Elena, if you are reading this, your mother has done what she threatened. I am sorry I could not protect you from this final cruelty, but I can give you the truth. You are my daughter, not by blood perhaps, but by every choice I made for 26 years. When your mother told me she was pregnant with another man's child, I had a choice. I chose you. I chose to be your father. I chose love over biology. But your mother never forgave me for that choice. She wanted me to reject you to punish her mistake. When I did not, when I loved you, instead it poisoned her." The USB contains home security recordings. Every cruelty she committed when she thought I was not watching, every relative who participated, every conversation about the plan after I was gone. The folder contains DNA proofs, not yours but of others. Your cousin Camila, daughter of your Uncle Diego's affair. Your Aunt Lucia's son is not her husband's. Your brother Alejandro is not mine. Yes, you have a brother. Your mother gave him up for adoption before we met. She has been sending him money. My money for years. Everyone has secrets, Elena. Everyone laughed at you today, but they do not know that I knew everything. I was dying. I was not stupid. Use this carefully. Or do not use it at all, but remember you were the only real family I ever had. With all my love, Dad. I checked my mother's maiden name on her birth certificate. It was not who she claimed. My hands were shaking as I loaded the USB into my laptop right there in the private bank room. Hours of recordings. My mother destroying my childhood drawings. Aunt Lucia stealing jewelry from my mother and blaming me. Uncle Diego discussing plans to challenge my father's will. The final video was from 2 days before my father passed. My mother was on the phone believing he was asleep. He is almost gone. 2 more days according to the doctor. Yes, I am going to humiliate her at the funeral. Public DNA announcement. Make her pay for everything. She will be destroyed and we will split his life insurance. She had forged a life insurance policy. I pulled out the documents. There it was, $1 million policy with my mother as beneficiary and best of all the fraud department number circled in my father's shaky handwriting. But there was more. My mother's birth certificate. Her maiden name was not what she claimed. A quick search gave me the answer. She had lived under a false identity for 35 years. I made my calls. First to the insurance company. They were very interested in the forged signature. Second to the authorities. They were very interested in her past. Third to a reporter I knew. She was very interested in the security footage. Fourth to every spouse of the relatives who were not at the funeral. They were very interested in the DNA revelations. I waited 3 days. I let my mother bask in her victory, posting on social media about protecting the family from fraud while Aunt Lucia, Uncle Diego and the others shared and laughed publicly. Then I struck. The story broke. The authorities arrived at my mother's house while she was reading the article. Divorce papers were served. Joint accounts were frozen. The insurance company not only refused the forged policy but filed charges. But the best part was finding Alejandro, my secret brother. He was 32, a successful architect who had been searching for his biological family for years. I met him in a cafe 1 week after the funeral. So he said, looking at me with eyes identical to mine, "It seems our mother is quite the case. She is all yours if you want her." "God no," I replied, "but I would like to have a sister if you want." Deal. The funeral home never received payment. When assets are frozen, the loss falls on them. My father ended up in a simple pine casket, which was what he would have preferred anyway. He was always a simple man. The family fell apart completely. Divorces, arrests, audits. The cousins who laughed at me were too busy dealing with their parents' disasters. My mother received 5 years in federal prison. I attended her sentencing. "You destroyed everything," she spat. I did not respond. My father gave me the tools. I simply used them. By the way, he knew about Alejandro. He knew about your real past. He knew about the affairs, the thefts, everything. And yet he stayed. Not for you, for me, to protect me from you. Now she is in prison. Sometimes I visit her, not for her but to update her on my life, my promotion, my new home, my growing relationship with Alejandro and his lovely wife, the foundation I started in my father's name. The story went viral. Many people with toxic families wanted to support someone who fought back. Last week she finally asked, "Was he really not your father?" I took out the DNA test I had done after discovering everything. Yes, he was biologically completely. You lied about the affair. There was no other man. Her face went pale. You wanted to hurt him while he was dying and about to leave you, so you invented a lie to hurt me. But you forgot my father was a thorough man. He tested me when I was born. He always knew I was his. He just wanted to see if you would really carry out your threat. Then why did he not stop me? Because he wanted me to know exactly who you were. All of you. He wanted me to be free. I left her there choking on the truth that she had destroyed her own life over a lie she had invented. The funeral bill remains unpaid. The director wrote it off. He even gave me a small urn with some of my father's ashes. I scattered them in the lake where he taught me to fish. Alejandro accompanied me. We stood there, 2 children who had been denied knowing each other for decades, finally united by the man who loved one and never met the other. To Dad, said Alejandro, raising a beer. To the only real father either of us ever had. I replied as the wind carried the ashes over the water, and I swear I heard my father's laugh, not the cruel laughter from that funeral hall, but the warm, deep sound of a man who played the long game and won. They wanted me to pay for everything. In the end, they were the ones who paid. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.